Welcome back, everybody. Fantastic to have you. Did we not tell you Peach would fix it? Did we not tell you he was the best? We're back, we're live, we're ready to rock and roll with our next match. Yes, I know we were busy with Pangolins versus Anomaly. However, we are now crossing over just due to the time constraints. We're going to be checking out the matchup between Inglorious Blasters and Five Nights. And that is a matchup I am super stoked for. And we know that Five Nights were the winners of the previous 20, but Inglorious Blasters has a reputation of their own. So this is a matchup we're going to need all eyes on, Phoenix.
Rematch of the semis of the Sunburst Cup, rematch of the grand finals of the Sunburst Cup. On both those occasions, Five Nights came out the victors. I think 3-0 both of those games as well. Might have been 1-3-1 in there. Point is, Five Nights have, for the last calendar year, had the better of this matchup. However, it is my opinion, as I know it is yours as well, IB are one of, if not the strongest of these three teams. In my opinion, I think they are a team who is terrifying. They're super well drilled from what we can tell, and the talent is off the charts as it is in all of these teams. So I think we're going to see the script flipped a little bit here when compared to what we've seen in the past. But it's up to Five Nights to prove us wrong here. I think in spite of the previous results, I feel like IB are the favorites.
Indeed, and like coming in with that kind of confidence to a LAN, I think is pretty instrumental. Like that, like we've mentioned before, the morale, that's big. Like that keeps you going. But here we have, yes, a repeat of quite the infamous matchups. And for me, I'm curious, based on, we've been chatting to a couple of the teams, we've heard a couple of people talking about it. I'm curious to see if what their reputation that doth precede, if that comes to play, or it's a new narrative. But speaking of what we do know, here's your Five Nights at LAN's team.
What a terrifying roster I've ever seen. Mito, Lycally, Stalker, Smiley, Squishy, a bunch of monsters on this team. All of them can be match winners in their own right. You look at this team on paper, by far the most accomplished lineup of all the lineups here. Lycally, Mito, Squishy, all have played in finals many, many times before. All have won finals, not just as a part of 5K, but in their teams before that. But their opponents are no slouches in their own right as well. Swoom and Diablo, the premier tank DPS duo in South Africa. The One King as well, new face coming in on the Genji, and then you've got Atsu and Apricornicus have been operating at the pointy end of the South African Overwatch scene for a number of years now.
And indeed, you mentioned with the new player to the roster, I mean, it doesn't seem to have been a detriment in the slightest. With the chats that we were having, we've already seen them playing phenomenally. And I only hope that they move from strength to strength, because they're going to need it. Five Nights, like you said, no pushovers, as they've shown, and Inglorious Blasters very strong in their own right. So with those preferred heroes picks, I mean, I haven't seen a huge amount of Genji being played. Do you think, are you going to expect that from Inglorious Blasters? Because we know they don't particularly care about the meta. They're like, cool, this is our strength, this is how we work. So are we going to see that brought into the game, or are they going to actually be forced to adapt now?
I don't think we're going to see much Genji. There's definitely a place for Genji, and there's definitely a place for player expression in general, and Genji, as I'm sure you will attest, is one of the most expressive heroes in terms of a player's ability and playstyle in Overwatch. So I wouldn't surprise me to see a little bit of Genji, but he's certainly not what I would call the most meta pick of them all. It's worth noting, was Sterling on that list now? I don't think
Sterling wasn't, no.
So that's interesting to me, because we know he's floating around at the LAN here.
He is a sub.
So he is in as a sub. It would shock me if we didn't see him at some point. Of course, as one of the premier hit scan players in South Africa.
76 man himself.
Literally, by his own designation on his shirt, we expect to see some of him. So that gives him a lot of compositional depth as well on the side of IB. So I'm not sure what we're going to see. Five Nights especially, they are not meta adherents by any stretch of the imagination, and they can sometimes play up and down to the level of their opponents. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Here's our map pool. Once again, we will be starting on Control. It would shock me 0% to see Lee Jang Tower once again.
I do know as well from a quick chat with Sterling, I'll throw this in here, he's become very aware of how strong supports are and how they're playing, like how sometimes you can even out DPS to a DPS role.
Yeah.
So I was chatting to him and saying, cool, based on that, like, how are you planning to adapt? So I'm curious to see what they bring to the table, and regarding that, is that going to even factor down to your map picks? Because if you can play those maps that allow you to flank around and take out your supports before a fight even starts, you're in the clear massively. And speaking of which, there's Lee Jang Tower. To absolutely nobody's surprise, Lee Jang Tower Control is our first pick, and that is by Five Nights at LAN.
Yeah, predicting Lee Jang Tower feels less like a prediction and more just like a thing
It's
that
a
is going to happen.
It's not a question.
And it's a great map. We really can't complain. And we saw part of why that is in our last matchup. Anomaly so dominant on Control Center because they could play a completely different playstyle. But when the other maps struggle a bit more, and we might see a similar thing here. I think Five Nights thrive a lot more on a more chaotic playstyle, especially when compared to Inglourious Blasters. But that said, these are both teams with a lot of character. They're both teams who are meta agnostic in some way. That is a very interesting ban here. Five Nights banning out IB's Reinhardt, Zwoom, scary on the Reinhardt to be sure. However, takes that out, and this is one of those stylistic bans. I suspect this is a player targeted ban. I'm not sure if there is a massive venture play on the side of Five Nights, but this doesn't feel like a ban of weakness. This feels like a targeted ban against one of their opposing players. So it wouldn't shock me if Luke or somebody like that was a big venture spammer, and that's something that IB will know coming into this matchup.
Indeed, I mean, we do know a fair amount about these teams, but these guys scrim against each other frequently. They watch each other play, they play against each other, so they very well may know that, cool, this this player can absolutely pull the venture out of their hat and roll with it. And speaking of rolling, we're gonna get rolling. It's the next matchup. It's IB versus 5K. Here we go.
On Lee Jang Tower again.
No one's surprised.
I think it's always interesting to see what we start off on here in terms of Lee Jang Tower. It is going to be Night Market.
Okay.
Flyers can excel on this map, but this is a map that can give a lot of compositional. We fixed our overlay, guys, thankfully, so we can see the heroes and their ultimate charges.
Doomfist. Hello.
Okay, so that's Stalker in a nutshell. It would not surprise me if we saw more Doomfist bans, specifically against 5K, because as far as hero player combinations go, Stalker and Doomfist is probably the most obvious in the South African scene. So we're expecting to see a ton of Doomfist from Stalker. However, it's worth just saying this from the outset, he's far from a Doomfist one-trick. He's a very capable tank player on all kinds of different tanks, from your normal, more consistent tanks like your Winstons and even his Reinhardt's not too bad historically speaking, to your more gimmicky picks like your Ball, like your Doomfist obviously. But you can think of this as Stalker's default hero. It's up to IB to force Stalker to change, either by countering the Doomfist or making sure he's not getting enough value to justify the pick.
Indeed, and so based on that, because we know, like, Stalker in a nutshell, it's interesting that wasn't one of the first bans. So again,
that tells me IB thinks they can deal with Stalker.
Exactly, which is
that's a real show of confidence from IB.
Goodness me.
It's worth noting as well, support-wise here, this is the meta support composition up to this point, right? Juno Brig is what you pick. Juno you pick for, obviously, she outputs a lot of healing, but really it's about that speed boost. She's kind of slotted into Lucio's role of giving sharpness to your team fight ability, because you can go deep at the drop of a hat. So, yeah. that those are the picks. And Brig just in general a very strong hero. Outputs good healing, can take care of herself and can protect her own backline. So from the support line, very meta. But we did see Junkrat. Now as far as hero player composition combos go, Stalker Doomfist is probably right at the top, and then Mito Junkrat is somewhere a little bit below that, because that's another one where you're like, Mito Junkrat, Mito Torbjorn, those are probably some combos you expect to see coming out of 5K, and I think it really colors Five Nights' style, right? They're not messing around with meta compositions as a matter of course. They can absolutely adhere to a more meta-dependent style or meta-prescribed style, I suppose you say, but they will do some wacky stuff, no problem. Nobody's playing Torbjorn. Mito's playing Torbjorn. Junkrat's not a huge pick. Mito's playing Junkrat, and he will excel on that hero.
Absolutely.
But it does make them a little bit mercurial sometimes.
Yeah, of course, but I just think of, when I think of teams that don't need to conform to the meta, these are the teams that come to mind. Because they're so strong, because they are at that level, this is their strong facet, is not conforming to a meta, playing what they're good at, and it works for them. So having two teams that do that similar thing, that makes for a very, very interesting clash. And speaking of clashes, this was the ultimate matchups that we saw. I know, again, not all of them are broadcasted, just as a reminder. So again, if you want to see them all, swing by ATK Arena. But we had our Pangolin matchup that we were dealing with, and as a reminder, your lower bracket is available for anybody that gets knocked out of the upper bracket. It's that double elim. So we are going to see one of these two powerhouse teams get sent to the lower bracket, and they're going to have to write their comeback narrative one way or another. But yeah, based on the other matchups we have on screen, any insight?
No surprises so far. As we said, obviously Anomaly Pangolins, which we alluded to earlier, still ongoing at this point. I can say that Anomaly did take map 2 on Esperanza, so that was 1-1 last time I looked, but that is ongoing. And then otherwise, Pink Salamanders, 5K, IB, all 3 owing their matches. No surprises there.
Again, in the beginning, yes, but these teams are coming out of the gate strong. And I know these players are strong. I know these players are ready. We're going to rock and roll right back into our first match. It's Lijiang Tower Control, picked by 5K, but won by who, Phoenix? That is what we're here to find out.
Indeed, and as we said earlier, just a reminder, we are on night market to start off with here. I don't believe this plays into any team's strengths particularly, but we've got Ontiablo on the Tracer, the Junker Queen, a very interesting pick here, and Squishy on the Honor as well, another very, very common hero player composition. Seems like his favorite hero. I haven't actually spoken to him about it, but it's a hero I see him excel most on.
No, for sure. And again, I think playing around what's cheapest. Okay, well, Mito Junkrat immediately showing this, but he's paying for it with his life. But Zwoom answering in kind, and Stalker on the Doomfist, punching the lights out of Apicornicus. Zwoom taking out the Faro as well. Now there's a massive scrap in the back here. That's huge between the fight between the two tanks and pushing them back. Finally, the Doomfist laying out the poor Tracer. That's rough, and it's a beautiful scrap that ends up going the way of Inglorious Blasters.
Yeah, they picked up a few kills there. Zwoom, it's worth noting if you're not aware, one of the, if not the best tank in the country by most people's summation. So he will dominate on this hero. He has already gone down in this fight though, and the point switch, so this is very sharp stuff from IB. Recognizing they've lost their tank, drawing out their team fight is not going to serve them that well. Instead choosing to pull back, regroup, and get ready to go again.
Indeed. I guess they say, oh no, we're not running raids. It's tactical retreat, tactical repositioning. But the positioning is very key here, as we see the dive from the Tracer, immediately looking to take out behind, and bam, there we go. And Zwoom following up with their own on Smiley. The Echo doing huge damage. That's already 3 down on the side of 5K. Yes, Mito picked up 1, but that's a huge imbalance of players left alive. And so quickly they move back on, and a 5-player kill streak for Zwoom casually as we move back into the favor of Five Nights. The control point is theirs.
That means Zwoom contributed to every kill on that team fight, right? Because he died before that started. So that's kind of the nature of this player. He's a dominator. but he's a very smart tank player, a really tank player's tank player, if I can put it that way. And Nito punished the One King, finding him there. The Doomfist struggling a little bit to find value, has ulti at the ready, stuck up and taken down though.
Beautiful dive in from the Tracer. He was already struggling, and they managed to find the chink in that armor. Like Luke does manage to put down Apracornicus, so it's one down on each side, and the team fight comes to a brief halt with now just rounds being thrown either way. But the time is ticking away, and the points are ticking up for Inglorious Blasters. We have 2 ults on the side of each team, though. This next fight could be very pivotal.
Yeah, but the Doomfist ult is more like a get-out-of-jail-free card than an actual...
Listen, I want Stalker to do something wacky.
Okay, fair enough.
I've got faith.
If there's a player who can find that kind of value, but it's definitely him. But here's a much more important ulti. Doesn't seem to find much, but secures the kill into Smiley.
There we go, seals the kill, but like Luke letting loose their rocket barrage, and it's a massive scrap here, as On Diablo does take out Me Too, but it's trading on both sides, and there's the reposition. Ooh. Oh, there we go. I like your style, Stalker. I appreciate you trying to play to my narrative that I wanted in my brain, but ultimately no fruition for Inglorious Blast, so for Five Nights, and we do have the ult on the side of never mind, I was gonna say he's got his ult, but the wheel is deflated before he can even get sent out. The Juno ult is up and running, but it's the points ticking away. Yes, we're on overtime. It's a massive scrap, and Diablo has managed to take out one more. There's King bringing it home. That's Smiley out of the picture, and they've taken it back. It's 40% and climbing for Knights at LAN.
What? I felt like Inglorious Blasters was winning this team fight, but apparently not. And they are. Onti's finally kills the tire, gets rid of Atsu, but they're forcing them back quite effectively. Point switch, point one by IB, a momentary, I wouldn't even call it a lapse, just choosing to give that space up and focusing on winning the team fight instead. And that's what I think IB really brings to the fore. A sharpness that some of the other teams are lacking, and a fearlessness in focusing on securing team fight wins as opposed to objective percentage. You saw that when Zoom died. Doesn't matter. Yes, we could stick around here, fiddle for a bit, get another 10%, but no. We back ourselves to win team fights, so we'll back up, regroup, come back in and win the team fight instead. Another thing to note was Room switching off that Junker Queen. He was not getting dominated. He was not struggling, but he felt like D.Va would offer him more value in that moment, and so he pulled the trigger and made that switch without being countered in any significant way. Now, we do come onto a more brawly map style here, and both teams want to do some punching.
Yeah, but we look at Five Nights at LAN's comp, there's the May, and that's it. That's the only change. Everything else is fine, which is, you know, I guess if it works, it works, and it's working now. That's immediately 2 down, but Zoom answering back with a knife to the face of Smiley. Is this London? Can I say that? But immediately, the comp being shown to work. There was a one hero change, and it's already working. Stalker now chasing down. There's the Genji. I told you. I was like, we were going to hear it. Well, you told me. It's fine. Stalker taking a brief nap in the middle of that, and now in a bit of trouble, put out of his misery. Yes, it's in the hands of Five Nights, but now they've lost their tank. This is an opportunity for Inglorious Blasters to capitalize. Jeepers, you poor May. I see the Cassidy putting in work, and this is the opening that they need to capitalize on, though.
On Diablo is absolutely terrifying on this Tracer, by the way. But he's copped a couple of kills here. They've been doing a good job of shutting him down, preventing him find too much value. But here they move forward. The One King on the cast. 2 kills to the good now for Inglorious Blasters. And this is what I thought would happen coming into this matchup. Domination. If one team was going to dominate, it was going to be IB playing a very solid style behind Zoom. And they're doing that so effectively here. They've got Pulse Bomb ready to go. Squishy with his ultimate also at the ready for 5k. And the Blizzard could be key here, but a lot of players low.
Cheapers, a lot of players. Somehow Stalker's still alive, managing to back it up. And yes, we've got the Blizzard ready to rock and roll. Smiley's now taken out of the picture. So Five Nights at LAN still setting, poised and ready to pounce.
Ooh,
there's a lot of damage, and that Ana's doing its absolute best. Here comes the Junker Queen really brawling it out. And the Stalker's still being kept alive. There's a huge brawl. Out goes the Blizzard. It's frozen. It's gonna be fine. They're still alive. That's incredible. Stalker punching out the Ana. That's insane. The tire manages to finally take them out. There are these 3 ults on the side of Inglorious Blasters. King does eventually fall, but it's, you know, it's whatever. They're still holding on to that point. 60% and climbing with 3 ults in the bank. Five Nights at LAN, they need to pull an ace out of their sleeve.
Well, they've won this team fight, so they should get the cap here at least and get that point ticking up in their way. But Zoom, he's in the mix here. They're not giving up this team fight. It's unlike what we saw on the first map where they were so sharp and swift with disengaging. A little bit lax there, pulling back. Pop the Juno ulti there. That was 5k and they lose out on Smiley. This is quite a big commitment here from the blue team.
A big commitment, maybe hoping to try and take out as much as possible, delay the use of ult, but with already one down and Mito in huge trouble, that's it, and the tank's been anti-healed. Can he make it out? The movement, He takes a knife to the face, he doesn't care.
Squishy.
Look at this brawl on point, it's insane. Doomfist says not today, and he heads on out. An incredible play, well kept alive for a brief second as three of them fall.
Yeah, that was all Squishy keeping him up there. The shots from the gun, the anti-heal as well, allowing Stalker to stay alive. But it's all going to be for naught here as Zoom barreling on through here with the Junker Queen. A dominant performance from Zoom so far this map. Auntie's been struggling a little bit, but Zoom is absolutely living up to his name so far on Lijang Tower.
Which we absolutely love to see, and now with peaking into 90%, the King looking to try and use that a lot, but ultimately rushed down. He still takes a pick while being punched in the face. I don't understand. This man is incredible, and it's the
in the past are still very talented, but are not grinding as much Overwatch as they were back. In the past are still very talented, but are not grinding as much Overwatch as they were back then. So maybe lost, if not a bit of skill, at least relative skill to some of the other players who have been grinding all that time. So yeah, it's 5k. They need to tap into what we know they can do, which is play up to the level of their opponents.
And look, I think incredible plays from not just team perspective, but down to the individuals as well. I mean, we saw instrumental plays from both of the tanks, the supports working overtime, the incredible, like the May Blizzard was great, but like that showed the power of the supports. Like people were staying alive far longer than they should have, at least far longer than I do in a pub, but that's fine. And ultimately, if you think that, well, we know 5k needs to play to now that level, do you think that's going to require a switch up on Stalker's side?
That was something I had been considering as we watched that map come to an end. It doesn't feel like IB are allowing Stalker to dictate team fights in the way that a Doomfist frequently wants to. And they're not countering him particularly hard with any practical approaches or plays or anything like that. We're not seeing him getting slept out constantly, anti-healed, anything like that. It's just good, consistent team play, good positioning, and ultimately a good performance from IB that is preventing Stalker from finding value. And it's also the fact that as a tank, there's a couple of ways you can respond to a hero pressuring your backline. You can either counter them, or you can put on some pressure of your own. And Zoom is doing an excellent job of applying pressure to Stalker's backline and saying to Stalker, hey, either you kill my team first or I'm going to kill your team first. And so far, IB's been doing a better job of staying alive when the pressure is on.
Absolutely, and I mean, it's fantastic to see that, you know, two heroes like Doomfist and Junker Queen, they have that capability. It's not, you know, Ryan is going to sit there with a shield, and, you know, Winston is good with the dive, and Diva just says no to any projectiles. But with a Junker Queen and with a Doomfist, there is that potential. It's like, I'm actually going to be a huge problem for your team. So unless you can lock me down and shut me down, that free reign is not something you want to be giving to either team.
It looks like we've got our map here. Our feed is frozen, Peach, if you're listening, our program feed. So we are not seeing anything on our dirty feed, but it is going to be Circuit Royale. Now, Circuit Royale is one of the maps that has received a few changes here on the first point. There's a few more paths for flanking attackers to take, a few more paths for the defensive team to be aware of in terms of countering out. So we're going to have to wait and see how much of an effect that actually makes. My feeling playing this map is not that much has changed, but it's a lot different in quick play than it is in competitive, not competitive like ranked, but competitive esports level play, where teams will have grinded out these maps a bit more, will be a lot more familiar. And I suspect somebody like a Stalker, an Ontiablo, those kind of players are going to be very good at identifying the new strengths that have been created for their heroes on this map.
Indeed, and as we know, it's again, it is Five Nights pick because your losers get to pick the map, and the mode is Escort. So we've moved away from Control, and it's Escort on Circuit Royale. I'm going to be interested to see, you know, I know Stalker's so good. He's so good on his Doomfist, but is this going to this map itself going to warrant a change more so than just the performance and having to shift up to counter IB?
I think that is absolutely for me the key here is what Stalker does coming into map number 2. Like I said, he's not at all incapable of playing other heroes. He's very, very strong on non-Doomfist heroes, and we've seen him frequently play those heroes, so it's not a case of if Stalker's not on Doomfist, you guys are going to struggle. But that definitely is the hero which he can impose himself on a matchup with the most. And it's often a question of how long before he lets that go, if you get what I'm saying. How long before he says, okay, fine, this is not working, I'll play something a little bit more normal. Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see if he's decided that now is the time for that, or whether he feels like no. I think Doomfist is the hero that is going to allow us to grind our way to a victory.
Honestly, it's something that I'm going to have to expect from these teams to be able to adapt. Yes, we know that, like, hey, we play to our strengths. That's the 5K and IB mantra, as it were. Mm-hmm. That's what they're good at, that's what they're used to. But they still need to be adaptable and show that they can do that. Show that they, yes, they can appreciate their own strengths, but they need to be cognizant of the enemy team. Give them the respect that they deserve. Give them the due portion of their ability, knowing that if they bring the right cards to the table, they still pose a significant threat.
Yeah, and I think from IB's perspective, you changed nothing, right? We do now have our bans here. 5K, I said Auntie was struggling a little bit on the Tracer, but they've decided that that is not a hero that they want to deal with. And if you could ban Tracer 5 times, I suspect you might do that, because that hero in the hands of someone like an Ontiablo will ruin your day. And IB are saying, let's flip the meta, right? This Juno is such a powerful hero in the meta. Let's get rid of her and force a bit of chaos. Now I feel like that plays a bit more into Five Nights' hand, but I guess IB are showing their confidence in their own abilities to adapt to an evolving meta.
100%, and so that is the confidence and that is the adaptability that we're going to need to see from map 2. We're ready to rock and roll. 5 Nights at LAN versus Inglorious Blasters. It's map 2, it is first to 3, Tracer and Juno banned, and your picks are interesting.
Right, Sterling's back. That's something immediately we can say, right?
Hello, Mr. 76.
Now, Ontiablo is locking the Widowmaker here. It would shock me to the very core of my being if Sterling allowed that to actually come out of the door. Sterling is one of the preeminent Widowmaker players in South African Overwatch. Now, we know he loves his soldier. No, stop that. Let's be real here, Sterling. We know you're not coming out of the door with that. But otherwise, the Sigma pick, fairly consistent with what we expect to see on Circuit Royale. And a more pokey composition. Double sniper on both teams. Ontiablo, though, says, Sterling, I'm the Widowmaker now.
Damn, bro. Immediately out the door and the double, with these sidelines, this is something you really can expect.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that, the Hanzo and can actually put in the work that's needed. I know that Widowmaker is kind of your usual pick, but I've seen the Hanzo, especially particularly at this level, it's something that you come to expect. But now it's a massive fight between the two tanks, and Zoom does put down the Hanzo. The Blade in the backline looking for those picks. It's a sniper duel, and once again, Ontiablo coming out on top. So 5 Nights at LAN, their initial conflict put in a little bit of a hole. The Zen in the backline, Squishy looking to use his balls effectively, I believe is how the kids say.
I think that is how we should all operate. Use our balls effectively
Agreed.
and respectfully. That said, Ontiablo is dumpstering Blaine so far. He's got 2 headshot kills on him. Ontiablo is not what I would call a Widowmaker specialist, and Blaine is. So this is a bit problematic from 5K's perspective, especially since it allows Sterling to play onto one of his best heroes as well, which is the Ashe. It gives them this dynamic of the double sniper, and so far IB totally dominate on Circuit Royale. Who cares about the new flank arrows and whatever? Just run in and shoot them in the face.
I mean, that was very bold. I mean, speaking of dynamic, that was dynamic entry and a half.
Again!
I mean, that's disgusting. We are seeing this consistency with the Widowmaker, and so much so that Sterling was able to peek and not get his head taken off by Blaine. And now, look at the amazing momentum it's gained them. They pushed up so fast. The 2 Sigmas are now battling it out. We've got the infrared sight popped, and everybody is visible. The Sigma's trading blows, but not so much HP. And now, the rest of the team coming into the composition. There's that stun going out. We see the supports working. Overtime Stalker dangerously low, but the Immortality field is up. And Hanzo looking to push, trying to keep them on the back foot. Ontiablo actually taken out by the Zen this time, and his reign brought to an end. Zoom does take out Smiley, and look at that Apricornicus cleaning up through the backline. Sterling taking one home for himself, make it 2. It's an absolute team kill. 5 nights at LAN, 5 nights in their graves. Inglorious Blasters, a dominant performance right out of the gate.
Yeah, this has been very, very one-sided, and it comes down to the effectiveness of the poke, right? That's the nature of these compositions. That's what you expect to excel, and so far it's been Sterling on Ontiablo in every team fight,
which is fantastic.
Yeah, and Ontiablo especially excelling. Every time you look, he's found a kill in a team fight, a headshot on somebody. He's got the Jade gun as well. My guy has been grinding this hero, and he's showing Sterling up a little bit here.
He really is. Look, a trophy fit for a Widowmaker of that prowess. The ult from the Sigma does go out, but Tranquility, no, not a chance. Nothing happening there. So null and void is that, and ultimately Stalker loses his life to Sterling and Smiley along with him. Sterling, brilliant pick on the Ashe here. That poke and that pressure and the absolute aggression. That's gross, and you know it. Sterling. Out goes Bob, feeling like, you know, just add one more to the party as the payload pushes closer towards the edge. They're not done yet. Swoom is ready to take down 2 more, and Bob takes down 1 for his own pleasure. It's Inglorious Blasters blasting their way through 5 nights at LAN, an absolutely dominant performance in round 1.
You will not see a faster push than that on Circuit Royale, that's for damn sure. Yeah, Ontiablo, what a freaking monster. It feels like, you know, between our games, our little technical break, I was speaking to somebody and watching some of the games that were happening. Poached Egg, of course, we spent so long talking about how she never plays ball. The first person I saw, she was playing ball. And this is another one of those moments where these teams show you how little you know about their different strengths. And Ontiablo proving to us that he is actually an absolute monster on the Widowmaker, and Blaine is reeling a bit here. And as I said, my understanding is that Blaine they bring in as a Widowmaker specialist, and Ontiablo is not a Widowmaker specialist. He's very much a Tracer specialist. And now you have to look at this Inglorious Blasters team, if you're a Pink Salamanders at this stage, and be like, you gotta ban this Widowmaker, you know. It is Sterling independent. This team is a Widowmaker, a team full of Widowmaker masters. And I think you do not play Circuit Royale against this team.
Never. And again, I think that's maybe one of the things that they're going to have to look at the most is as they watch their opponents progress, you're going to have to start factoring in and adapting. But adapt they will have to do when it is their turn, because now the clash begins again. The sides have swapped, and it's time for 5 nights at LAN to fight against Inglorious Blasters once again. Immediately the with me, Widowmaker out of the gate. Look at the aggression from the Doomfist. That feels so disrespectful. The Immortality field is up and Genji dancing around. Will he actually be able to find a pick? He's dangerously low. There's a health back to help him out. The Sigma decently disruptive on the front line. Ultimately, the Genji does go down. And Stalker finding Sterling on the Ashe. Stalker on an absolute hair of health. Bye, Stalker. We appreciate the aggression, but now it's time to sit back and wait for the new team fight.
I like this change, actually, the Stalker Doomfist and the Genji. You have a problem with the Widowmaker. There's a few ways to deal with her. Ignore her and kill everybody else, or shut her down. They've gone for the shut her down option. I think you can't ignore Ontiago. He's proven that to you. Zoom already with an ulti, but punched out. That was a little bit risky from Zoom there. He would have known that Stalker had punch available, but he didn't respect that. Gets his ult cancelled out, but he charged that so quick. He's doing so much damage.
It's incredible, yes, and a beautiful play and reaction from the opposing team. But yeah, maybe we're starting to see a little bit of that confidence becoming overconfidence. I'm not sure, but Squishy and Slimy falling to the side of IB, and the health pool's just draining. Stalker fighting for his life alongside Mito. Everybody's dead, and now it's another team kill on the side of IB, and we saw that switch up. I know, like, look, Sterling is actually.
I know. I was gonna say that. I just noticed that now, and I was like, they're just making fools of me. You know, they can hear me, so every time I say something, they're like, let's make Son look like a total idiot. Fine, I accept that, and I love seeing these players do different things. And Sterling, the Torbjorn actually makes perfect sense here. The Genji really doesn't like playing against the Torbjorn. Stalker on the Doomfist doesn't really like playing against the Torbjorn. So it makes a lot of sense here, and it provides protection for this man right here, Mr. Jade Gun himself, Mr. Dominator, Mr. Head Clicker on Diablo, and there goes Stalker again.
I mean, they're just trying their best to deal with this Widowmaker, but notice how everybody's changed around the Widowmaker and not the Widowmaker themselves. We've got Blaine that has switched through two heroes actually from to the Cassidy, and then now again, and okay, poor Squishy, sorry, I saw that was rough. But then Sterling now switching to support his Widowmaker. Like, that's how you, like, if you needed any more evidence that this is an instrumental player, here it is.
And it's not even his strongest hero. Tracer is his strongest hero. So terrifying. Good luck. But like I say, it's a response to this map. This is the kind of composition you play on this map, and they're playing it to perfection. The Sigma, the Widowmaker, all of it working so well. But here comes the Nanoblade.
Nanoblade out and ready to do some work. That's two already beautiful from their side. And this is the momentum that they're going to need. But fighting for his life, Smiley does eventually and now the kills just keep flying in. My goodness. It was a great Nanoblade, but look at that response. And Stalker 1v1ing a turret. Well done, Stalker. Let's get back and get you healed up.
The problem was they got a lot of kills in the backline. They didn't kill that Baptiste. We saw just not securing that. And Zoom was still wreaking havoc on the point as well. And if you do not kill Zoom, you will not win the team fight. It's that simple. Yes, Diablo is an absolute monster, but Zoom is quietly doing tons and tons of damage. And Stalker's doing tons and tons of dying.
Exactly, and there's the go to the flux. Up we go, down we come, and down go 5 Knights at LAN. 1, 2, 3, 4. I saw Stalker at the beginning of that. That was like the team fight hadn't even started yet, and he was diving through the enemy comp, taking so much damage before he could even do anything of worth. And so the worth is found on the side of IB, and they are the ones to take this home once again. I don't know. That feels like a bit of more than a bit of a slip up on 5K's side.
A slip up. Where was the slip up? Because the slip up feels like a momentary mistake. If you get what I'm saying.
Yes,
right?
I do.
But they were playing on ice here. There was no grip to be found here under their boots. IB ruined them, and on Diablo especially. But like I said, quietly, Zoom was having an excellent game on the Sigma. He was winning that Sigma duel with Stalker when they were both on Sigma on IB's attack. Now, of course, the tank duel frequently comes down to what's happening behind or around the tanks. And that was the case with Auntie putting on so much pressure. Zoom was just allowed to do whatever he wanted. You simply could not ignore Auntie for long enough to deal with Zoom as well. And that's the power of a team like IB. There are match winners up and down the roster. Front line, back line, in the middle. everywhere there's a match winner that you need to deal with. And the same is true of 5K, but they are not operating in this matchup at the same level as IB so far.
Very much on the back foot, it feels, and playing catch-up is not really where you want to be when you're in competitive Overwatch. And again, what I was noticing was, because everybody's a match winner right there in IB's comp, great, Stalker, we know you're good on that Doomfist, we know you can dive through the enemy lines and cause some damage. But not when they're that ready for you, especially that last team fight. I'm going to call it out again because I saw him go and I was like, maybe wait for the team, and then he was on minuscule health and he drops before the team fight even starts, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, all of them fall, and it felt like a bit of a throwaway. It didn't feel like, if you're on control, you try and dive on and survive on the point. He punched through the lines immediately and paid for it.
What I will say is it feels like 5K were out of ideas, right? I wouldn't call it a throw or anything like. I know that's not what you were implying, but it felt like they were out of ideas. Stalker had tried fancy footwork, he tried rollouts to get on the back line, and even when he got to the Widowmaker, he couldn't do anything with that. We're going to move to Eichenwalde here. I was speaking to a German, they said it's Eichenwalde.
Eichenwalde. Okay.
But Eichenwalde, yeah. But I don't speak German. Fascinating band. We literally haven't seen Monkey for even 1 second so far. Zoom has not shown that. Zoom is an incredible Monkey, we know that. But this is another ban related to the map. They don't want to play against Monkey, against Dive on this map. IB banned the Junkrat. What an interesting ban. Straight up banning Mito out here. Thinking to themselves, we've counted everything out. Is there anything that could pose a slight threat to us? Fine, let's take out the Junkrat. And it almost feels like a taunt, if you will, to Stalker, to be like, don't care about the Doomfist, bro. Keep running the Doomfist at us. We have the tools to dismantle this hero, and they've done so expertly so far.
100%. The chess game being played both physically and mentally here. So yeah, the ban of the Monkey, I mean, we all love to see a Winston, but it's smart. It is a very smart ban on this map, and especially when you consider, Zoom can do that. He can perform. Yes, he's been rocking it out on Sigma, but well played from 5K. But yeah, it does feel like a taunt. It's like, all right, we've got pretty much all our bases covered, so let's look at what might be the most obvious threat and just nip it in the bud, and they'll be ready for them now.
The thing that poses the most risk to us,
yes,
because a Junkrat can just win a team fight through pure happenstance, it feels like, and maybe that says more about the teams and players I play against in my comp games, but it definitely feels like sometimes you're not paying attention, the Junkrat will pick up 2 or 3 kills in a team fight, and that'll be that. So eliminate that. Force Mito to play something, not that he doesn't want to play, but maybe isn't his first choice to play. But what I'm noticing in this map specifically, no bans for speed boosting heroes. Lucio's still in the pool, Juno's still in the pool, Reinhardt feels to me like the pick that Wu might want to come out here and really smack 5K around. I think that would really put the nail in 5K's coffin here if Zoom came out on what is one of his favorite heroes and absolutely dominated on that like we know he can. He'll have the opportunity, like I say, to have the Juno speed boost, he'll have the opportunity to have the Lucio as well, and now he doesn't have to fight into the Junkrat either. I think this could be setting up for some Zoom Rhine play.
I would love to see it. The other thing I would love to see now is Stalker's reaction to this, and his response, probably better terminology. Like, again, phenomenal on the Doomfist, but this is now your last opportunity, all right? They are 2-0 up. This is the match point for Inglorious Bastards. So unless Stalker's still on Doomfist, unless there's a new tactic that he can bring to the table, I'm not sure what to expect from 5K.
Auntie said we're playing Ball Sombra. He just listed the composition that they were going to play. It's not what they're playing, but they're on attack, they could play anything. Stalker, though, as you say, is still in the Doomfist. He still feels like this is his hero. He's flexing on them outside the front door. He's got the Jade Fist, surprising nobody. But it's interesting here. What I do like is they're giving a little bit more resources to Luke here. We haven't mentioned him much. He's had quite a quiet series so far, stepping out for Blamed in that second map especially. But they do bring Zoom on the Reinhardt out, which I called, and they've got Auntie back on the Tracer, and Sterling is very thankful because now he can show us what he can do on his favorite hero.
Fantastic. Give everybody a little spot in the limelight, and Sterling, I mean, we're ready for you. Bro, we're ready for you, but they were not at all. Beautiful pick on Luke, poor guy. On Diablo does fall in the back lines there, but you know, that was quite something to behold. The Juno finding problems here from the Torben. Mito, again, like we know what he likes to pick on the Junkrat, but he's clearly doing work and comfortable with it. As yet to now 3-4 on 5k. It's a very comfortable team fight for IB, and again, it almost feels like a history repeating itself with this opening play.
Yeah, they're living rent-free in 5K's head at the moment, IB. It feels like everything they do is the right decision, whether it's traditionally the right decision or not. They just have complete control of proceeding so far. Stalker still persisting with the Doomfist, and I don't really feel like the Doomfist is necessarily a problem. It just feels like they cannot handle this composition that IB are bringing to bear, and there are so many problems to solve, and 5K basically just can't handle the heat.
Well, I mean, 5k was handling that pretty well. I mean, Diablo managed to fall to Mito in that engagement, but they're already back up and running. I mean, look, Sterling had already earned his ult, which is incredible, and so now the pressure being put on IB, and Stalker, he's still performing well, but look at that, Luke down already, so now you've lost your DPS, and it's picks and pokes at the moment all around in these different angles of exposure, so they've got to be very careful, especially with a player like Diablo. Okay, Slimy bringing back Luke, not for long though, and Sterling eventually falling to Mito. So hey, we were talking about Mito. Look at he's doing work. That's 2 down now, and
3 down.
3. My goodness, let's not count this guy out. That's incredible. Beautiful players on the top. Run, Ryan. Stop it immediately. And it's an absolute brawl. It just feels mean. They're punching him as he's running away.
Credit to Smiley there for staying alive there, allowing Mito to really get the hammer on there as he pumped out so much damage, getting so many kills, but Diablo, he's got the ultimate. There we go, Stalker, get out of here. They need to camp the body to prevent the res. Nano onto the bird though. This could be a pretty good fight for our defending team.
I hope so, and hopefully there's going to be some good work being put in. Zoom doesn't care. There's Like Luke finally managing to take out one. Sterling responds in kind, and that was the end of the nano rocket. Sterling just doesn't stop. He swapped over to Cassidy, and he's making it work. There's no hope for that revive. Stalker is so low. He's got his ult. Will he use it to get away? He's still alive. He's on 7 XP.
Oh, there we go.
Absolutely incredible plays. Maybe they're a bit of overconfidence. Zoom in a bit of trouble here.
Oh, Zoom.
Again, look at Mito. It's brilliant. Slimy brings back Stalker though, ready to rock and roll. The Juno takes out Mito and eventually Like a Luke as well. It really is a scrappy back and forth. Sterling on minimal HP, but he doesn't care when he's got Juno by his side, and Stalker taking a quick dip in the river, and that will be the end of that fight as the payload makes it to the next checkpoint.
And that's the strength of this IB team that I think has stood them in such good stead in this matchup, is that their support line is consistently able to keep each other alive when the Doomfist comes into the background. We saw it there. Somebody was in the background, Atsu dropping low. He found 2 kills in the midst of that, stayed alive, and kept his Baptiste alive as well. So really stellar play from the IB backline, and that might be the difference between these two teams, the ability for the IB supports to keep each other in play.
Yes,
big shatter.
Huge shatter. The stick from Diablo didn't come to any effect, but Zoom does manage to take out the opposing tank, and now look at them diving. 1, 2, 3, 4, they fall. Mito ride. No, he's not long for this world. All of them buried underneath the carpet here on Eichenwald as they push the payload right towards the end. I don't see them managing to do much to be able to stop them. Delay the inevitable, maybe. You poor Doomfist. You're trying so hard. That payload is but inches away from a match win.
Just like IB are playing with their food here, right? It's so close to getting in here, but it's not the case. It's just a case of Five Nights putting in a valiant defense at the end there. But with 3 minutes and 17 seconds on the clock still for IB after that cap. They'll be feeling like they need to be looking towards their next match to see who they'll be playing up against in the upper bracket finals.
Indeed. Like I was thinking about that as you were saying that. Oh look, Blaine is done with the game. Actually, he's like, cool, I'm done. I don't even
he's
wanna hang
seen
around.
enough.
Yeah, he's seen enough. I was thinking about it. Like, yes. You have to start thinking now, okay, as 5K, we're going to be in the lower bracket, we need to start thinking about that, but look, I'm always the one that's going to quote Aragorn and be like, there is always hope, and I'm down for that narrative of 5K bringing back something extra special here. It's 3 minutes 17 on the clock, and I want to see that happen. Oh, hi, 76. Good to have you back.
We'll see. They're on defense, so yeah, I guess he feels like that feels like a pick where Sterling's like, come on guys, come on, let me play the soldier. We're gonna win this. We're so much better than them because you know how confident Sterling is. Let me dominate on my favorite here, and he's going to try and do that here. Zoom asking for a 1v1 on Ryan. I won't spoil, because I don't know if the players can hear me or not, but I won't spoil whether that's going to come to fruition or not, but we can see whether that's going to happen. And Five Nights at LAN, they're just desperately trying to find solutions to this IB squad. They've gone with the Reaper. We'll see how that works for them. That feels like a desperate response from a team out of ideas.
Lot of ideas, but hey, if you throw it at the wall and it sticks, is it a bad idea at the end of the day?
Yeah,
we're gonna find out immediately. The aggression out from Stalker, it's his comfort. That's what he's used to, playing this Doomfist and punching the Reinhardt back into his own lines. But a beautiful aggression from Zoom right off the start. Sterling taking out Mito's turret, making sure he can't get set up. And it's on blown Zoom just to respond in kind. The Doomfist might be able to get some work in here, but no. Look at that. Stalker.
Oh, the squats.
That's
the punching. They're teaching Stalker a lesson here.
Tactical squats, we know how it be. So an immediate complete reset for Five Nights, and 3 minutes to make this work. Man, I don't know about that probability.
IB are just showing off at this stage. Just dominant performance. And you can see the difference there. Auntie finds the opening kill in that team fight. Stalker not able to do the same in the enemy backline. The lamp coming out just in the nick of time. There we go. Another dominant display here. Excellent tracking from Atsu. Just total domination from the red team at the moment. And Pink Salamanders will be in their match versus Anomaly. Once the word comes down of how dominant this performance was, they might be trembling just a tiny bit at the prospect of facing this team if they can beat Anomaly.
Oh, I would be trembling and then some. But ultimately, they're still going to match. When Sterling is just, it's rude. It feels like cyberbullying. Are we allowed to broadcast this? I'm not sure.
Not on this website.
No, on the website. There's still desperate attempts being made from 5K. And look, with 2 minutes on the clock, you can try and make something happen. But Zoom just says, you know, I'm here to play. I'm here to rock and roll. Doomfist staying alive somehow. Mito getting taken down. He could, in fact, see him. I've got you in my sights. Sterling also just very quickly making sure that the ground was dead. I believe that's what that was. And Stalker
agricultural.
Also just checking out early, I believe. Sterling,
what's he doing
not
here?
ready to take any prisoners. That Mercy on an absolute hair of health. Inglorious Blasters just blasting their way through the roster of 5K. And like you said, it feels like a team out of ideas. They're on the back foot and there's nothing to bring to the front here. The Squishy swapped over to the Kiriko. Hopefully we can make something work, but there's 2 ults already on the side.
Oh, there we go.
Blasters. That's alright, you take those. Sterling does go down, but there's still so much ready to be used on here. Here comes Stalker, and he's in the back line. He's ready to make that jump into the Juno. And Zoom does fall. Interesting play there. Maybe we should stop counting people out so early. No, Mito's dead. Never mind.
It's still winnable though. They're in firm control here, 5K. They just need to pick up a couple of kills here. But the longer it takes, the more likely it is that IB will get the numbers back in the Mitchell's room on his way back. We can see through the wall here, about to rejoin the fray. Luke, the only man on point, getting the cap at Zoom. He will get the touch here, keep them in play. Auntie dropping low, not taken down just yet. In fact, it'll be Luke who is taken down once Sterling rejoins the fray. Squishy, a master with the kunais on the Kiriko, but not finding any value just yet. And this man right here, everything looks like a nail to Zoom, but he's nailed on this occasion. But Sterling not dealt with on the high ground, dominating as well as we know he can, and they're running out of time on 5K.
Absolutely. 30 seconds left on the clock. It was a beautiful performance from Zoom, holding that point from being capped. And now 30 seconds and counting for the Five Nights at LAN.
What's happening here?
Stalker, I don't know, like it's I love the aggression, but it needs to pay off, and it's paying off on Diablo as he brings him low once again. Zoom has found the short little Swedish man and sends him to an early grave. He's hunting still. He's hunting. He's got the shatter. He's ready to rock and roll. He dashed into a wall.
Oh no!
Out of his face. Goodness me. They, again, make a push for the capture point, but it's just too little too late. On Diablo, you two go down. You swap to the Tracer. I didn't even notice in all of that, and 4-4 is 0 seconds left. Overtime ticks down, and it is in fact over for Five Nights at LAN. They'll be heading to the lower bracket, so down but not out, and that's the narrative we're going to have to watch. But for now, it's IB that are your champions for this match.
Well, that kind of settles our power rankings,
Yes,
right?
indeed.
Our understanding of the relative strengths of these teams. IB currently firmly at the top, I think, in terms of who we think is the strongest. Not only do they have dominators in every role, they're bringing out some new dimensions as well, likes of on Diablo dominating on the Widowmaker, in lieu of Sterling as well, which is so impressive. And then the fact that it's not even his strongest hero, got some IB support in the background here as well.
Unsurprisingly.
And that supporter is going to be very pleased, I suspect, by the end of proceedings this weekend. But there's a long way to go yet. But IB are definitely showing us who the strongest team is at this stage.
Absolutely. I mean, if you are now any of the opposing teams, you need to be scrutinizing these matches and finding what exactly you can bring to the table to try and unseat IB, because that was a very strong, dominant performance. And if you are 5K, I think you need to start, going back to the drawing board. Wipe it clean. Think of something new. Yes, I can admit and I understand maybe it's just not effective against IB, but it needs to be, and it will need to be, even if you make it through the lower bracket, because you're very likely going to be facing them.
Yeah.
So, IB, your champions, a dominant performance indeed. There's plenty to kind of talk about it in that regard, but if we have a look here, there you can see now your 5K are in the lower bracket, and it's IB in the upper finals, and oh my word, I see that.
Pangolins beat Anomaly 3-2.
Oh my goodness.
So there's your first upset of the tournament
Indeed.
so far. It's going to be Pangolins taking on Pink Salamanders in the other upper bracket match. So they're flipping the script. We've already had Anomaly struggle in the first match we saw. They did end up dropping down, and we've had IB now dominate 5K. So we're getting a real good sense of the kind of work these teams have put in the background since the qualifiers.
And we're going to have to see now with Rage Quit Anomaly going down to the lower bracket, are they going to be able to perform? Because if they do manage to win this and go against 5K,
Yeah.
that's going to be interesting. But this is the narratives that we want. These are the narratives. Grammar is interesting if you didn't know. These are the narratives we want. These are the narratives, honestly, we come to expect from players of this caliber at an event like this. And I'm very happy with how it's going. I'm very, there's a little bit of adherence to our predictions, and then also just, Pangolins going, yeah, no, we've got our own agenda here.
I mean, Pangolins have blown me away so far. Just that one match we saw, they looked so strong against Anomaly. And I wonder how much of that is just a matchup thing. Anomaly relies heavily on the dive. Pangolins so adept at dealing with that. But we'll have to wait and see what they can do against Pink Salamanders, and if Pink Salamanders take that, whether they can bring the challenge to IB, because IB looks totally unassailable at the moment.
Absolutely. The matchup that I'm immediately thinking of, though, is what if we see Anomaly go through. What are you thinking of that matchup versus 5K for our wild card team?
It becomes a very interesting matchup, doesn't it? Because yes, Anomaly lost out against Pangolins, but if we believe that may have been stylistic, then that kind of contextualizes that a little bit. I was also speaking to Trizzle from Pink Salamanders, and he was saying we actually struggle against Pangolins sometimes. I don't know how much of that is versus our expectations and we dominate them anyways, versus maybe they actually put up a real challenge. But there's respect for Pangolins within the community as an up-and-coming roster, and so that might contextualize Anomaly's loss as well. Five Knights did struggle a little bit, as I understand it, against Vanquish. Yes, they took the 3-0 victory comfortably in the end, but it wasn't the domination like we just saw them get dominated by ID. So we might see these two teams come closer to each other in our power rankings or understanding of the relative strengths of them. And so that low bracket match could end up being a very, very fascinating display that could further flip our understanding of the strength of these teams.
Which is fine by me. That just means Welcome back, everybody. I know that you were good and went away and hydrated and fixed your posture and everything. I know it because I was watching. Let's not get into that though. Let's get into our next match, son. I'm stoked. This is now our matchup. We are now going back to a familiar team we've already seen on the broadcast. This is going to be Anomaly, but it is versus Ethereal Ducklings. What are we expecting from this?
Well, Anomaly's been through a bit of a roller coaster, haven't they? We called it coming into this. They were going to be a bit of a wild card, a team capable of beating the best and losing to the worst. Now, Pangolins is not the worst by any stretch of the imagination, but they did end up taking their upper bracket match 3-2. Rumor has it there was a bit of a Charlie Niner on the final map from Anomaly, so you know that can all affect the mental. We spoke about how important momentum was for Anomaly. And so far, it hasn't started off the best for them from their perspective. But coming up against Ethereal Ducklings here, Ethereal Ducklings is probably the team that we would have felt would have the most challenges coming into this tournament. No team is a bad team at this tournament, at this LAN, but they might be on paper the weakest team, the team you would expect to excel least. This might be a good palate cleanser if we look from Anomaly's perspective, from a very, very challenging, perhaps unexpectedly challenging match against Pangolins to what they will hope will really set the tone going forward. You know, we set a bad tone in the first match. Let's reset and set a good tone now going forward. But we made the mistake of, to a certain extent, underestimating Pangolins. You and I did, I'm sure Anomaly did no such thing. And so we'll endeavor not to make the same mistake here with the Ethereal Ducklings, who I expect will come out all guns blazing.
100%. Look, I'm all in favor of a good underdog story. And yes, their first matchup was against Pink Salamanders, I believe, and that was as expected. And they now find themselves in the lower bracket alongside Anomaly. So yes, our wildcard team is back on the front lines, but again, having seen how Pangolins reacted, I'm ready to root for Ducklings and their underdog narrative and see what they can bring to the table. So for me, I am interested to see how many similarities there will be from Anomaly's previous comps and performances and strats, and whether that's like, okay, well, this didn't work for our first team, now the second team, are we going to try the same thing again, or just come in with a completely new hand?
Like I kept saying, it felt to me a bit like a matchup issue for Anomaly, where they seem to rely heavily on the dive in a lot of maps, and Poached Egg and the rest of the Pangolin crew, Jabba and Jewel in the backline especially, was so adept at dismantling that play. And I wonder whether a team like Ducklings will struggle a little bit more against a more aggressive composition, because Anomaly can be quite the scalpel with their dive composition, get into the backline, clean up very swiftly. So whether Ethereal Ducklings can, like we just saw from Inglorious Blasters, dismantle any aggression from their opponents, that might be what this map comes down to. This match rather.
Well, and we saw again, we know cool, Anomaly good with dive, but we saw them perform more than adequately with the brawl comp, and so that matchup kind of, you're saying that's the matchup factor. Maybe now they can bring the dive comp that we know they do have against Ethereal Ducklings, and that's where it's going to work. And again, I think that just speaks to the broad array of talent and skill sets that are across this LAN, across the teams and the individual players themselves. But with still a fairly close match, just in case you were not around and didn't hear the results from our first match that we covered, which was Anomaly versus Pangolins. They look at that. That's fantastic. Look at all those wonderful faces. Now you can look at actual attractive people instead of us. But
wow,
it's
true though.
It's self-deprecation humor. Everyone loves it. So with Anomaly versus Pangolins ending with that 3-2, it still shows a brilliant showing of skill from Anomaly. So coming into this matchup, I'm hoping for at least a good back and forth.
It's worth noting, bottom left there, Terran Lord. His brother is actually on the opposing team, Phoenix Tears. Now I don't know that I don't think Phoenix is here, and I don't think Phoenix, he might not be playing either. There's more staff for this team, but he definitely has subbed in the qualifiers. So we might be seeing some, what is it, brothers? Patricide as fathers?
Sibling rivalry.
Yeah, well there we go, sibling rivalry. But Anomaly will be feeling like they should be quite comfortable coming out of this match. But Ethereal Darkling is very capable of putting a few surprises in.
Absolutely, like you said, no bad teams here. No bad teams, and we know on paper what things look like and how things work in theory. But another military adage for you, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. So both teams could be coming in with their own kind of pre-thought out stratagems and ideas of how the enemy team is going to respond to those stratagems. There's chess being played, but ultimately you're going to have to adapt on the fly regardless.
Absolutely, and it's been a bit of a weakness, as I've said, of Anomaly, of what we saw on Legion Tower in their first matchup, and from what my sense of them is from the past, is they tend to be very well drilled in one particular thing in a scenario, but their ability to adapt on the fly isn't always as sharp as from what we sometimes see from the likes of Inglorious Blasters and Pink Salamander. But my suspicion is that this is the kind of matchup that they will thrive in, Anomaly. A match where they can show how well drilled they are, show how strong they are, and their opponents are much less likely to be able to handle that level of put togetherness that Anomaly should bring to bear here.
Yes, well, it's all good and well to talk the talk, but it's going to be time to walk the walk now, as Ethereal Ducklings are picking first. Would you look at that? We've never seen that before. It's Lijiang Tower Control.
Who could have predicted this? Snowball, who could have predicted
Not
this?
me.
But look, I can't complain. I love Legion Tower.
Yep.
I don't mind watching it. I don't mind playing it. As control maps go, it's one of my favorites. This is a very meta ban. Now, as I said, I've got some brother-on-brother violence here, so I wonder how much more Ducklings know about Anomaly than other teams might know about Anomaly. And here's the Pharah ban as well. So the Orisa ban, very interesting. Like I say, it's the meta tank at the moment. So banning that makes perfect sense. And then the ban on Pharah, another hero where you like, this is probably addressing a weakness of ours. We don't really want to deal with Pharah in the sky, and they might know Ducklings very well, and they might know that that's a hero that they rely on for a lot of their own power. So two bans that I can see the logic in for sure.
100%. I mean, also factoring in with Lijiang Tower, you've got plenty of those delicious boot spots, and so being able to take advantage of that. I mean, you know, Orisa can do that, and so can our wonderful Bluebird. But with those removed, it doesn't mean that there's not still opportunities. And that, I mean, I'm thinking from a very non-meta point and very much a meme point, because the Lucio player lover guy, like oh, that's what I'm going for, and that's what I'm enjoying. But players are readying up, we're ready to rock and roll. This is the first matchup. A reminder, again, it's first to three, not best of three, first to three, and the losers pick your maps. There's a hero ban for both teams that affect both teams, but they cannot then be banned again for the series. So that's always interesting.
By the same team.
By the same team, correct.
So the other team could ban that hero again. So in theory, you could have a hero banned twice in a series. No more than twice. It is also worth mentioning that this is a lower bracket match. One of these teams will be going home empty-handed here. Ducklings or Anomaly, everything on the line here. Anomaly will be feeling like they need to make a long lower bracket run to justify their strength as a team, to feel like they've really done everything that they know they can do. Ducklings will feel like if they can overcome Anomaly, that is a huge boon for them, a huge sign of strength and how far they've come as a team. So we'll have to wait and see what happens here on Legion. Compositionally, what do you know? It's Dive from Anomaly. Who could have thought? But the Mauga from Ethereal Ducklings, very, very interesting.
Very interesting indeed, and like I said, the plans and surviving first contact with him, we'll see how quickly things get shifted out, if at all. But hey, a nice comfort picks from Anomaly. We're seeing very much the same of what we saw from their first matchup as they immediately engage. The aggression from the Winston's fantastic, punching out the stun, actually bringing Terran very low, but beautiful work from the supports there. It's still alive. And it's actually the first pick is still going away on ED as Ripe and Coconuts take one home apiece. And that's going to put a halt on Anomaly's aggression, at least for now.
It's hard to run dive into this composition. Who are you diving here? Juno? You don't really want to dive with Juno. I mean, you do, but it's very hard to actually secure that kill, especially when she's backed up by Nova Queen on the Brigitte. Something Cat, I mean, we didn't go through the rosters, but had I known Something Cat was the tank here, the Mauga makes perfect sense. This guy loves his Mauga. It's another one of those player hero combinations that is very consistent. Coconut's here going to open up with a kill, and Voideruni picking up another. So immediately, once again, Anomaly on the back foot.
Anomaly on the back foot indeed, and it's 30% and ticking up for Ethereal Ducklings. Those were nice picks as well from the teams kind of working together and being cohesive. You saw how they focused down and played well together. So ultimately, again, I think we need to stop making these kind of preconceptions of, oh, you know, this team is going to perform like XYZ, because they keep showing us up. Maybe we should keep talking about it, because then they perform at a completely different level. But immediately now, the Mauga finding a regained sense of confidence, pushing forward, Voideruni ready to take one there, but the Echo managing to at least refrag back. The Tracer doing plenty of work here. My goodness, the stun goes out, and there's a lot of aggression as Nova Queen does fall for their troubles. The Tracer's still alive and well, looking to find the kill on the Juno and shut down immediately. Is she going to die for her trouble? Yes, she is. Just not enough getaway power. But it's multiple kills. 3 down on the side of Anomaly, and the points sit securely in Ethereal Duckling's hands.
It felt like they were winning that team fight. All of a sudden it turned on its head. I think the pulse bomb from Ripe onto Terran Lord was the key there. Securing the kill on that monkey takes away so much of their sharpness of this Anomaly composition. So they're struggling to get in here. Like I say, who do you dive here? This is another one moment. This is who you dive. The Nanobus should help secure this, but you can see the Juno can just bail, and then the backup comes in. The peel is there, but now what? Wow. They already lost the map to a C9, and I suspect that's not going to do their mental any better.
Not so great. It was interesting because it felt like I was looking there, I'm like, what are they waiting for? Like, they're ready to rock and roll. The Nano went off, and you know, you didn't even pop off into Angry Monkey mode, and
well, you don't want to combo Primal with Angry Monkey.
But like, with Nano. With Nano, but I saw all fighting around the point, not on it, and so that was just a very interesting move there. Again, I'm not good at the game, and I'm sure they do know what they're doing, but yeah, even if they're testing the waters, Anomaly, I think, have had a bit of a wake-up call from ED here.
Absolutely, and again, another team that's handling Anomaly's dive very effectively, again, playing behind the Brigitte. That is something that has been a standout from both Pangolins and Ethereal Duckling so far, that so far Anomaly hasn't really been able to deal with. Once again, diving in deep here onto the Brigitte, but not finding anything here at Lord of Terrans.
Yes, no fruition for that matchup, but there's a lot of scrapping happening on the bridge as the two tanks collide. And a brief respite here, but you know, Kuragari is ready to rock and roll the Tracer and making sure that the backlines see a lot of flack for their troubles. It's 3 down immediately for the start of this team fight. Again, Anomaly seem like they're spending a lot of time trying to play catch up here, and another one. Kuragari caught out, and Ethereal Ducklings still feel like they're sitting pretty.
Yeah, they're in total control at the moment. I'm looking at this with a mind to the bands as well for the next maps. Like, what if I'm Anomaly, what do I think is the big problem? Yeah, I pick Junker Queen and I go to Esperanza on the next map, but let's say map number 3, I'm probably removing this Brig, or I'm removing the Mauga. I think you can force Something Cat off that. All of a sudden, Ethereal Ducklings doesn't look as strong, because that's what Something Cat can do. He can dominate.
Keepers, yeah. And so then immediately 3 down. That was the chink in the armor, the scalpel right through into the side of them. It's so impressive to see them react, and Another thing I'm spotting here from Ethereal Ducklings is as soon as they see that gap and that space created, when one falls, the team synergizes very well together to capitalize and, in this case, get a team kill. Which is beautiful, and they're immediately right back on the attack anomaly. I'm happy with that. 2 ults on the side of each of them. 3, make that 3. So this next team fight should be fairly chaotic. There's contesting on the points as both tanks now scrapping it out, and there's a lot of issues going down. That poor monkey locked and trapped in a zoo. It's another 2 kills, both of them falling very, very quickly at the beginning of this team fight, and the rest of the team sent scrambling to try and save their lives. Oidaruni does get taken down, but it's Coconuts taking out the Echo for their troubles.
Yeah, that was rough. That was 3 big ultimates sent into that team fight for Anomaly. Yes, Ethereal Ducklings matched that as well, but they can afford to lose the next team fight, no problem if they need to, because they've got almost up to 80% here. They're ready to take this next team fight with the Orbital Ray, one of the strongest ults in the game at the moment, and a Pulse Bomb to find a pick. Pulse Bomb comes out, doesn't find anything, and now we've got Rinku going to try and bring his own rally to bear, but taken out quite quickly.
Jeepers, yeah, quite quickly. They've 1, 2, 3, 4, or 2, 4, and Anomaly. It was a good execution, but the rally just didn't provide any fruition. As we see, once again, they're all falling. Mauga's just bullying people at this point. The Tracer trying to find some at least value on an exit frag, but there's nothing left for them to show. As ED very, very soundly take this match, and again. Can they stop going against our script? Because we keep
we don't want that. We don't want that. We want the surprises to keep coming through. And we can see the faces not overly excited. Ethereal Ducklings, that certainly isn't a matchup that they would never ever have expected to win in a million years. They were pleased, don't get me wrong, but that was not the outpouring of emotion that you might expect if they'd beaten like an Inglorious Blasters or something. Then you've got high fives, you've got people standing up and clapping.
You'll hear them.
Exactly. So you can see how they felt coming into this match, that this Anomaly squad was beatable for them, and they beat them here comfortably in the end. But again, I hate to keep bringing it up, but it keeps being relevant. The lack of adaptation from Rage Quit Anomaly. Again, we saw Dive wasn't working. We called it on the first map. It doesn't seem like Dive could work here. Don't get me wrong, Dive can work anywhere. Any comp can work. Big Daddy No-Tail once said anything can work, and that was in the Dota 2 context, but it's true in Overwatch as well. But it wasn't working. You looked at that composition, you said, who do you dive here? The Juno. We saw it. Proof positive there. Juno is just like, whoops, sorry, let me get out of your zone of operation here. And who could have guessed it? Esperanza once again. Terran Lord says, give me the Junker Queen, but do Ducklings ban the Junker Queen? I think that would be such a sick ban here if they are cognizant of that.
Cognizant they need to be. Yep, there's the Mauga, as expected. What's interesting is noting, you were talking about how the lack of... it's Bricky.
Interesting.
Okay.
Oh, they can't ban Queen because you can't ban another tank.
That's true.
So there's another little meta implication of the bans. You can't ban 2 of the same role.
Yeah.
So banning the Mauga was double smart from Anomaly there, it has to be said. I think, like I said, take something out off the Mauga or you ban the Brig. And they managed to get both out of that. But they won't run the dive here, so the Brig is less relevant, but still.
Which I'm still interested, because I know that they were working around getting behind the Brig and making sure that she wasn't as effective. Now they don't even have to worry about it. But again, nobody's surprised with Anomaly picking up Esperanza, and it's now a push map. I like push because there can be a lot of backwards and forwards, but yikes, if these maxes are anything to go by for the entirety of the day, let alone this matchup, some of these are pretty sound wins, and I don't maybe expect it to be drawn out quite as much.
It has to be said that Anomaly on their push map against Pangolins in the last series full push the map. You very seldomly see that on the push map. It tends to time out rather than one team completing the map. So that tells me that Anomaly is very confident behind Terran Lord's Junker Queen on this map type. So we'll have to wait and see. We know how good Anomaly are on things that aren't the dive, at least at this tournament so far. So it wouldn't surprise me to see them dominate here. We'll have to wait and see what Ethereal Ducklings can bring to bear here, and whether they can show the same strength without the help of something Katzmalga.
Well, lots of smiles all around, which means good spirits, good morale, and I'm sure plenty of good Overwatch. I'm ready to see what Anomaly can now do in response to this, especially now that very likely Terrence has been given his Junker Queen.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that perform exceptionally well. So here we go. It's map 2. We are ready for the push map on Esperanza. And the picks will be coming through very, very shortly, I'm sure. And if you are Anomaly, I'm sure this is now a point where you're like, cool, let's get our momentum back.
Yeah.
Let's start to show them what we really can do. Oh, would you look at that? It's a Junker Queen.
Who could? We're so good at this. We guessed it would be Lijiang first. We guessed it would be Esperanza second. We guessed that they would ban the Mauga and the Brig, and we guessed that Junker Queen would be the first pick here from Terran. We're so good at this.
Well, we didn't guess was a pause, so I think they're just dealing
We
with a
should
quick
have
tech
guessed
issue.
that,
Should
to
have,
be
but
fair.
then again, we don't want to be know-it-alls. We don't want to show up as that. But it gives us a bit of time to look at these at least initial picks. So I do spot the Genji and the Sojourn, and look, Lucio and Kuriko is a lovely combo for me, just because I like how they get to move and walk around. So we got your mobility taken care of on both sides. And then you've got Juno as a strong pick from ED, as we saw the previous times, being able to walk away from an angry tank. Ramatra on ED. Curious to see how that's going to match up against the Junker Queen.
I'm not sure how that matchup is supposed to go. It's not a matchup I've played against a lot, because I play a lot of both of these heroes, but I don't play against much Junker Queen. And it's very common to play Junker Queen on this map, and push in general. So when I play this map and Runasapi and Coliseo, I tend to find Queen mirrors a lot more than Queen versus Ram. So I'm not really sure how this is supposed to go. My sense is that Ram will give you more consistent damage, Junker Queen gives you more opportunity to blow people up and to dominate. But we'll have to wait and see what Ram does have in his favor here, if it is going to be licks on the Lucio, which